Gentlemen, gaining power over any woman is not about dominance, deception, or games. True power is about influence, not control, and influence comes from strength of character, emotional discipline, and an unwavering sense of purpose. A man who does not master his emotions is easily manipulated, not just by women, but by the world around him. Emotional mastery is the cornerstone of personal power, and without it, no matter how intelligent, attractive, or successful you may be, you are vulnerable. Most men make the mistake of thinking that strength is about physical power or financial success. But in truth, a man's strength is most clearly seen in how he handles his emotions in moments of pressure, conflict, or temptation. When you become reactive, raising your voice, getting jealous, begging for attention, or acting out of desperation, you hand over your power. You show that you are not in control of yourself, and the moment a woman sees that, she knows exactly how to get under your skin. She knows she can push certain buttons, and you'll explode. She knows she can withdraw her attention, and you'll come crawling. She knows your emotions are available to be manipulated. That's not power. That's emotional slavery. Now let's be clear, having emotions is not the issue. You're human and you will feel. But power lies in what you do with those emotions. Instead of reacting impulsively, observe what you feel. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Is it rooted in insecurity, ego, fear? Self-awareness is the first layer of emotional discipline, and once you become aware, you take your power back. You're no longer at the mercy of a fleeting mood, a provocative comment, or a manipulative tactic. You stay composed, and in doing so, you become unpredictable. In a good way, women are instinctively drawn to stability. A man who can stay calm in chaos, who doesn't flinch when tested, who responds with poise even when provoked, is seen as dependable and deeply masculine. On the other hand, a man who lets his emotions control him is seen as unstable, weak, and easily replaceable. Women test men not because they're cruel, but because they want to know, can I trust this man to lead? Can he be my rock when I'm emotional, insecure, or uncertain? If you crumble under pressure, you've already answered her question, and not in your favor. Consider how powerful it is to be unshaken. A woman starts an argument, expecting a dramatic response, but you remain calm, collected, and firm. She throws emotional jabs, jealousy games, silent treatment, passive aggression, but you don't fall for them. You see the pattern, you understand what's happening, and you stay centered. She begins to realize, this man can't be controlled by tactics. He's grounded in himself. That's when the dynamic shifts. That's when respect grows. That's when attraction deepens. Too many men think being emotionally expressive means being real or vulnerable, and while there's a time and place for openness, uncontrolled emotional displays are often just signs of internal chaos. You don't need to bottle everything up, but you do need to contain it with strength. Let your emotions inform you, not rule you. Women are emotional beings by nature. That's not a flaw. It's just part of their design. But if both of you are led by emotion, then neither of you is truly leading. One of you has to be the anchor. One of you has to bring logic, direction, and calmness to the emotional storm. That role is yours. And here's a truth many won't say aloud. The more emotionally disciplined you become, the more powerfully you influence her emotions. Why? Because you're no longer needy. You're no longer seeking her response for validation. You're no longer rattled by her moods. And that stability makes her feel secure and more drawn to you. Ironically, when you care less about controlling the situation and care more about controlling yourself, you end up having the strongest influence of all. Emotional mastery isn't about being cold or detached. It's about being centered. It's about being able to feel deeply but still act wisely. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to walk away and when to lean in. And most importantly, it's about never letting another person's behavior determine the quality of your inner state. The moment you decide that your emotions belong to you and not to anyone else, that's the moment you begin to reclaim your power as a man. Most men are conditioned to chase women. From a young age, they're taught that winning a woman's attention requires constant effort. Buy her gifts, compliment her endlessly, send long texts, always be available. But this mindset, while common, is exactly what strips a man of his power. When you chase, you place her on a pedestal, and by default, you place yourself beneath her. You send a loud message: you are more valuable than me. Your time is more important. Your attention is something I need to earn. That dynamic instantly robs you of authority and attraction. The truth is, you men don't chase, they attract. They understand that their energy, time, and attention are sacred. They do not give it away freely. They do not beg to be noticed or liked. Instead, they focus on becoming the kind of man that women naturally gravitate toward. And that starts with building yourself from the inside out. When a man is deeply committed to his mission, his career, his fitness, his goals, he radiates a powerful energy. He becomes magnetic. There's something about a man who is busy pursuing greatness that is incredibly alluring. Why? Because he doesn't need her. He chooses her, and that distinction is massive. Needing someone makes you dependent. Choosing someone from a place of abundance makes you powerful. Think about the men women obsess over. They're not the guys sending flowers after one date. They're not the ones blowing up her phone at midnight. They're the ones who are slightly elusive, focused, centered. Their lives are already full, with purpose, with passion, with ambition. A woman can sense when a man is consumed by his own journey, and that triggers something primal in her. She wants to be part of that world. She wants to feel chosen by a man who doesn't need her approval to feel valuable. And here's what many don't understand. Chasing doesn't just kill attraction. It creates emotional imbalance. When you chase, you give more than you receive. You overinvest. You try too hard, and eventually you start to feel resentful. You start to question why she's pulling away, why she seems less interested, why she takes your presence for granted. But the answer is simple. You gave her power by acting as if your worth depended on her response. A man who attracts doesn't play games. He sets standards. He doesn't pretend to be busy. He actually is. He doesn't ignore women to seem mysterious. He genuinely values his time. And when a woman sees that he's not chasing, that he's not emotionally entangled in the outcome, that he's not addicted to her validation, her curiosity awakens. She starts to wonder, why isn't he trying harder? Why isn't he doing what all the other guys do? And that mystery is far more seductive than any cheesy pickup line or desperate gesture. You must understand that women are emotional creatures. They're drawn to experiences, to feelings, to energy. When your energy screams desperation, you push her away. But when your energy is calm, focused, self-assured, you draw her in. And that energy can't be faked. It has to come from a place of real confidence, real purpose, real self-respect. The irony is, when you stop needing women, you start attracting better ones. When you stop giving away your time so easily, people begin to value it more. When you stop chasing after affection, you start receiving it effortlessly. Why? Because you've shifted from external validation to internal fulfillment. You've become the man who is enough for himself, and that is rare. Most men exhaust themselves trying to prove their worth. But a powerful man knows his worth, and he lets his presence speak louder than his words. He walks into a room and doesn't need to announce himself. He doesn't crave attention, and that's exactly why he gets it. He doesn't ask for validation. He commands respect. He doesn't pursue endlessly. He builds a life so rich and full that the right woman wants to be part of it without being chased. The goal isn't to make her obsessed with you by pretending you don't carrots, to actually build a life so fulfilling that her presence feels like a bonus, not a requirement. That shift alone changes everything. You stop trying to impress and you start expressing. You stop begging for attention and you start embodying value. And from that space, real power is born, not over her, but within yourself. And that inner power is what makes any woman take notice. A man without boundaries is a man without identity. He becomes whatever others need him to be, bending, compromising, and shifting just to be accepted, approved, or loved. But here's the hard truth. Women do not respect a man who has no clear limits. They might tolerate him, they might use him, but they will never truly admire or submit to him. Boundaries are not just lines you draw for others. They are reflections of your inner self-worth. When you set boundaries, you're telling the world, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and this is what I will not tolerate. One of the biggest misconceptions men have is that being accommodating, agreeable, or endlessly available makes them more lovable. They think, if I say yes more often, if I go along with what she wants, if I sacrifice my own needs, she'll love me more. But that's not love, that's servitude. And women are not attracted to men who serve without standards. A woman might initially appreciate a man who's always saying yes, who gives without asking, who tolerates her moods and forgives her disrespect. But over time, she begins to test him, not out of malice, but out of instinct. She wants to know, is this man for real? Does he have a spine? Will he stand up for himself, even if it means risking my approval? And when he fails those tests, when he lets her talk down to him, when he accepts her flaking with no consequence, when he allows his time and energy to be taken for granted, she loses respect, slowly at first, then completely. That loss of respect kills attraction, because at her core, a woman wants to be led by a man who knows his value, a man who can tell her no without fear, a man who will walk away from disrespect, no matter how much he desires her. Setting boundaries doesn't mean being aggressive, rude, or controlling. It means being firm, clear, and unwavering. It means having a strong internal code and holding people to it. For example, if you tell a woman that you value punctuality and she constantly shows up late, do you just laugh it off? Or do you calmly let her know that your time is valuable and you won't tolerate consistent lateness? If she flirts with other men in front of you, do you confront it or ignore it to avoid conflict? These are moments that define your masculinity, not because you're trying to control her behavior, but because you're honoring your own standard. Women will only treat you the way you allow them to. That's not to say they're always testing you intentionally, but they're always observing. They watch how you respond to disrespect, to inconsistency, to emotional manipulation. And the moment you let something slide that should have been addressed, you teach her that your boundaries are negotiable, that your standards are flexible, that your self-respect has a price. And once you begin compromising your values to keep her around, you've already lost her. Maybe not physically, she might still be in your life, but emotionally she's gone, she's checked out, because nothing repels feminine energy faster than weak masculine energy. Women need to feel the edge of a man, not in the form of aggression or control, but in the form of unwavering integrity. They need to feel that they're with someone who will protect his space, his time, his energy, because if he protects those things, she knows he can protect her too. There's a certain calm confidence that comes from a man who has strong boundaries. He doesn't overreact. He doesn't need to raise his voice. He simply makes a decision, states his truth, and sticks to it. He doesn't explain himself over and over again. He doesn't negotiate his self-worth. He doesn't play emotional games, and that stability is rare. It's powerful. It creates polarity. Feminine energy flows when it feels safe. And it only feels safe with a man who stands firm, who can hold his ground even when she's emotional, unpredictable, or testing his strength. Boundaries are also a reflection of your relationship with yourself. If you let others violate them, it means you're violating your own self-trust. You're telling yourself, my comfort doesn't matter, my peace doesn't matter, I'd rather be liked than respected. And over time, that erodes your sense of masculinity. You begin to feel out of control, resentful, used, not because the world is unfair, but because you didn't have the courage to say no when it counted. So when you set boundaries, you're not pushing people away. You're inviting the *right* people to come closer. People who respect your time, honor your values, and see your worth, and that includes women. The kind of woman who's right for you will never be repelled by your boundaries. She'll be *relieved* by them. She'll feel safer, more attracted, more trusting, because she knows you're not afraid to be alone. You're not afraid to stand up for yourself. And that kind of man is rare. That kind of man is powerful. That kind of man doesn't chase women. He filters them. Most men talk too much. They reveal their intentions too early, explain their thoughts too often, and express their emotions too freely, thinking that openness will lead to connection. But what they don't realize is that silence, when used with intention, can be far more powerful than words. In the early stages of getting to know a woman, or even in a long-term relationship, how much you speak versus how much you observe says everything about your confidence, your control, and your value. A man who constantly needs to be heard, needs to explain himself, or needs to fill silence with conversation is, in many cases, trying to gain approval. He's trying to earn a response, and that neediness is easy to detect. On the other hand, a man who listens more than he speaks commands respect without demanding it. He watches, he pays attention, he notices things others miss, while other men are trying to impress her with stories, jokes, and compliments. He's calm, steady, and present. He's not trying to win her over with noise. He's letting his presence speak for him, and women notice that. They notice the man who isn't competing for their attention, because it signals that he has options, that he has confidence, that he doesn't feel the need to perform. When you speak less, you create space. Space for her to talk, space for her to reveal herself, space for mystery to grow. And mystery is essential to attraction. Most men unravel everything too quickly. They tell her exactly how they feel, what they want, how much they like her, and what they're hoping for. While that kind of honesty can be appreciated, it can also kill tension and remove the very thing that keeps a woman emotionally engaged: curiosity. When a woman knows exactly where you stand, when she doesn't have to wonder what you're thinking or how much you care, she loses the desire to pursue understanding. She stops investing because the challenge is gone. The man who uses silence wisely keeps a woman's attention without chasing it. His silence is not cold or dismissive, it's deliberate, it's full of presence, he makes eye contact, he listens without interrupting. He notices her body language, her tone, her mood shifts, and because he's not distracted by the need to talk, he picks up on things that most men are blind to. That makes her feel seen, and ironically, it makes her talk more, open up more, and lean in more. Because she feels the strength of his awareness, women are intuitive. They can feel when a man's silence comes from insecurity, when he's shy, afraid, or socially anxious. But they can also feel when a man's silence comes from dominance, from confidence, self-assurance, and control. The second kind of silence is powerful. It sets the tone. It makes her adjust to your rhythm instead of you adjusting to hers. It tells her that you're not in a rush, that you're not trying to impress, that you're already complete with or without her approval. Speaking less also helps you avoid unnecessary mistakes. Many men talk themselves out of respect. They overshare personal stories, reveal past weaknesses, or say things just to fill the air, without realizing that every unnecessary word can be used to judge them. The less you say, the less room you leave for error. And more importantly, the more you preserve your emotional leverage. A man who doesn't reveal everything right away is unpredictable, and unpredictability creates tension. Tension keeps her engaged. Observation is also a weapon. The more you observe, the more you understand what kind of woman you're dealing with. Is she emotionally stable? Is she manipulative? Is she genuine? Is she testing you? If you're constantly speaking, you'll miss the subtle signs. You'll miss the micro expressions, the inconsistencies in her stories, the little behaviors that reveal her character. But if you're quiet, attentive, and alert, you'll see everything, and you'll respond from a place of strategy instead of emotion. There's also a deep sense of control that comes from mastering your voice. Knowing when to speak and when to stay silent is an art. A well-timed pause can create more impact than a paragraph of praise. A calm, short response can carry more weight than a long explanation. When you speak less, your words carry more value, because people know you don't waste them. And when you do speak, you speak with intention, with clarity, with weight. Too many men are uncomfortable with silence. They feel awkward. They rush to fill the gap. But a man who is comfortable in silence is a man who is comfortable with himself, and that self-assurance is magnetic. It's the kind of energy that makes her lean in, ask questions, and invest emotionally, not because you forced her to, but because you gave her space to do so. So remember, when it comes to influence, less is often more. Talk less, observe more. Let her reveal herself before you reveal yourself. Let her invest before you overextend. Let your silence create depth. Let your presence say everything your words don't need to. Emotional self-control is one of the most underrated yet powerful traits a man can possess when it comes to influence, not only over women but over life itself. A man who cannot control his emotions is a man who can be easily manipulated, provoked, or thrown off his path. And women, whether consciously or subconsciously, are always testing a man's emotional foundation. They want to see if he reacts impulsively when things don't go his way, if he gets jealous over small things, if he loses his cool during an argument, or if he falls apart when he's not validated. The man who crumbles emotionally becomes predictable, and once you become predictable, you lose intrigue. Once you lose intrigue, you lose control over the dynamic. The problem is that modern culture often encourages men to be more in touch with their emotions, without teaching them how to master those emotions. Being aware of how you feel is important, but being ruled by how you feel is dangerous. A woman does not want a man who is emotionally fragile. She doesn't want a man who vents like her girlfriends, who cries every time something goes wrong, or who needs constant reassurance to feel good about himself. She wants a man who is emotionally composed, calm under pressure, unshaken by chaos, not because he's suppressing how he feels, but because he's in control of how he responds, and that control gives him power. Emotional self-control allows a man to remain grounded even when a woman is being difficult, distant, or disrespectful. Most men react instantly. She takes a little longer to reply, and they start questioning their worth. She seems distant for a day, and they panic, send multiple messages, start overthinking. That reaction alone makes her feel emotionally superior. She knows she can influence your state of mind. She knows she has power over you. But when you're stoic, when you stay centered regardless of her behavior, she feels your strength. She realizes that her moods don't shake you, that her games don't move you, and that her validation isn't your source of confidence. That's when the power dynamic shifts. When you learn to control your emotional state, you become a rock in her world. Most women live in a constant state of emotional fluctuation. It's part of their nature. They feel deeply, they react quickly, and they often don't even understand why they're feeling what they feel. That's where your emotional leadership becomes crucial. If you react to her emotions with more emotion, you create chaos. But if you respond with calm, clarity, and presence, you bring balance. You become the grounded masculine presence that gives her space to be in her feminine. And ironically, this draws her even closer. Emotional control also means not allowing your desires to override your principles. Many men compromise their values just to keep a woman around. They tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, even disloyalty, just because they're afraid to lose her. That is a form of emotional weakness, and women can sense that fear. They can feel when you're acting from a place of desperation instead of discipline. When you're controlled by lust, anxiety, or loneliness, you start making decisions that undermine your power. You start texting when you shouldn't. You start arguing over things that don't matter. You start chasing when you should be walking away. That lack of control chips away at your dignity. True emotional self-control isn't about being robotic. It's not about suppressing your feelings or pretending to be numb. It's about being fully aware of what you feel and choosing how and when to respond. It's about knowing that your emotions are yours to manage, not hers to fix. It's about having the discipline to pause before reacting, to think before speaking, to step back before escalating. That pause is where your power lies. That moment of control, when you choose logic over impulse, is what separates you from the average man. You must also understand that women are emotional communicators. Sometimes they will push your buttons, not to hurt you, but to see what's underneath your surface. She might pick a fight, ignore you, or say something disrespectful just to test your reaction. Not because she wants to destroy the relationship, but because she wants to feel your strength. If you lash out, argue, or become emotionally unstable, you fail the test. But if you stay composed, calmly address the situation, or even disengage when needed, You show her that you're not emotionally controlled by her behavior. You show her that you're a man of depth, of stability, of unwavering strength. This is especially important during conflict. Many men think raising their voice, getting angry, or being reactive shows strength, but it actually reveals emotional immaturity. The strongest men don't need to yell to be heard. They don't need to argue to be right. They understand that their emotional energy is valuable, and they refuse to waste it. They can walk away from a heated conversation and return to it with a clear mind. They can disagree without disrespect. They can remain cool even when provoked, and that level of composure is deeply attractive to a woman. It makes her feel like she's with a man who can handle life, handle pressure, and most importantly, handle her asterisk. When you become a master of your emotions, you become a master of your relationships, because emotional stability creates safety, and safety is what allows feminine energy to relax, open, and surrender. A woman cannot fully trust a man who is emotionally volatile, but she will follow the lead of a man who is emotionally steady, not because he demands control, but because he earns it through discipline, awareness, and presence. Masculine presence is one of the most powerful, silent forces a man can project. It's not about being loud, aggressive, or constantly asserting dominance. True masculine presence is rooted in stillness, groundedness, and intentionality. It's the energy of a man who knows who he is, who carries himself with purpose, and who is fully present in the moment. When a man walks into a room with that kind of presence, people feel it, not because he demands attention, but because his energy speaks louder than words. And women, in particular, are extremely attuned to that energy. They can sense whether a man is scattered, insecure, and needy, or calm, aware, and self-assured, without him ever saying a word. This kind of presence cannot be faked. You can't mimic it by copying someone's body language or memorizing lines from a self-help book. It has to be cultivated from within. It comes from a deep connection with your values, your purpose, and your emotions. It's the quiet confidence of a man who isn't looking for validation because he already validates himself. A man who isn't chasing anyone because he understands that he is the prize. This inner stillness creates a powerful external effect. When you're fully present, you move with purpose, you speak with clarity, you listen intently, you respond instead of react, you make people feel seen without trying to impress them. Most men struggle with presence because they live in their heads. They're constantly distracted by thoughts, by insecurities, by fantasies of what they want or fears of what might go wrong, and this disconnection makes them anxious. It makes them fidget, overtalk, avoid eye contact, or try too hard to impress. But a man who is present doesn't chase outcomes. He's not trying to force anything. He's simply there, grounded, open, alert, and that energy creates a magnetic field. Women want to be around it because it makes them feel safe, seen, and intrigued. Presence also shows up in how you carry yourself physically. The way you walk, stand, breathe, and make eye contact. Are you rushed, stiff, and closed off? Or are you relaxed, intentional, and expansive? Your body language reveals your inner world. A man who is centered takes his time. He doesn't move with urgency unless necessary. He holds eye contact without intimidation. He listens without the need to interrupt. He doesn't fidget or shrink himself to make others comfortable. He owns his space. That doesn't mean being arrogant or trying to dominate. It means being unapologetically comfortable in your own skin. And this isn't just about attracting women. It's about leading them. Feminine energy wants to be led, not controlled, not micromanaged, but led by a strong, grounded masculine presence. When a woman feels your presence, she feels that she can trust you. She senses that you're not easily shaken, that you won't fold under pressure, that you're anchored in something deeper than momentary feelings. And in a world full of chaotic, emotionally reactive men, that calm power stands out. It gives her the permission to relax into her femininity. It invites her to follow your lead, to open up, to surrender without fear. This is why stillness is so powerful. A man who can sit in silence without anxiety. A man who can wait without needing to fill the air with noise. A man who can listen without trying to fix or prove. That kind of presence creates a container for depth. It allows a woman to express herself fully without judgment. It allows the relationship to breathe without being rushed. And it draws her in because it signals that you're not trying to take anything from her. You're just being. You're whole already, and that wholeness creates emotional gravity. Masculine presence is also tied to purpose. When a man is on his path, whether that's his career, his mission, his growth, he becomes naturally magnetic, not because he's trying to be, but because he's focused. A man with direction radiates strength. He doesn't need to constantly reassure a woman of his value because his life speaks for him. He's not glued to his phone, obsessing over texts, or rearranging his schedule to accommodate her whims. He's locked in. He has structure. He has standards, and she feels that. She feels the difference between a man who's chasing her and a man who's inviting her to join him on his journey. But masculine presence is also about emotional control and clarity. If your presence is constantly disrupted by mood swings, insecurities, or people-pleasing tendencies, it's no longer solid. It becomes unstable. Women may initially be attracted to your looks or charm, but if they don't feel safe in your presence, the connection will fade. Safety isn't just about protection from the outside world, it's about emotional consistency. Can she feel that you're the same man regardless of the environment? Are you stable in moments of conflict? Are you clear in your communication? Do you maintain your principles even when tested? Presence is felt most deeply in moments of tension, when things aren't going your way, when she's emotional, when the situation is uncertain. Most men fall apart under pressure. They get defensive, angry, or withdrawn. But the man with true presence stays rooted. He doesn't run, he doesn't beg, he doesn't collapse into insecurity, he holds the frame. He lets a storm pass without being swept away. He remains emotionally available without becoming emotionally entangled. That is the kind of presence that makes a woman respect you, trust you, and feel deeply drawn to you. To develop masculine presence, you must train yourself to be still, to meditate, to breathe, to disconnect from noise and reconnect with your inner world. You must face your emotions instead of fleeing them. You must slow down, observe, and become intentional in every action. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming aware. The more aware you are of your thoughts, your body, your energy, the more control you gain over how you show up. And the more control you have over how you show up, the more powerful your presence becomes. In the end, gaining power over any woman isn't about manipulation, control, or dominance. It's about mastering yourself. When you become a man of discipline, emotional strength, quiet confidence, and unshakable presence, you naturally shift the dynamic. You stop chasing approval and start commanding respect. You stop reacting and start leading. Women don't fall for the loudest man in the room. They fall for the one who moves with purpose, who speaks with intent, and who knows exactly who he is. Power begins within, and the moment you stop seeking it from others is the moment it starts radiating from you. Focus on becoming asterisk, that asterisk man, and everything else will follow.